Welcome to AKB Guidance. So today we are going to learn about geosynclines. So let's see what we are going to learn. So first we are going to see about geosynclines, and then what are the characteristics of geosyncline, evolution of geosynclines, and theories involved in it. So without wasting much time, we'll get into our topic and we'll see the detailed notes, and we'll see in detail what is geosyncline and what are its types. So the first, what is geosyncline? Geosyncline is nothing but a logical deduction about massive elongated depression, which is a logical deduction about massive and elongated depression, which must have accumulated sediments which are squeezed, squashed, deformed, and upfolded, forming fold mountains. See here, this is basically deduction where I can say that a depression takes place. Depression takes place where sediments will get stored, and due to these sediments and these sediments due to the forces acting on it, these sediments undergoes this what we have seen squeezed, squashed, deformed, and upfolded, which finally forms into a fold mountain. So this is what today we are going to see. So what are the characteristics of geosyncline? So if you see here in this image, if you see in this image that which I have explained earlier, see, due to the erosion takes place here on this mountainous area which is near to sea or which is near to water body. So this is a mobile water sorry mobile water body, and these are deposition. These yellow color lines are depositions which are made due to the erosion, which are deposited, and due to passage of time there is more deposition, and this deposition which helps in maintaining a kind of a stress, or uh, acts as a load, which acts as a load. And also there are another kind of forces acting here which helps in um, making a fold mountain, so which helps if in future makes a fold mountain. So geosyncline actually is this submerged sediments. This is actually the geosyncline, so which is underwater. This is what geosyncline is. So let's see what are general characteristics of geosyncline. So the first characteristic is geosynclines are long. As we can see here, they are long, narrow, and shallow depressions. Shallow depressions of water. So as we can see here, these are shallow, means not having a greater depth. This is which is having a small lower depth, and which is not having a greater depth. So this is what a shallow is. And this is the first characteristic is it geosyncline is it is long, narrow, shallow, and shallow depression of water. And then the second thing is it is characterized by sedimentation and gradual subsidence. Gradual subsidence. See here, there is a sedimentation which is deposited, and there is a gradual subsidence, which means there is a gradual load acting there, and the subsidence takes place. So this is what the second characteristic. And here the nature and pattern of geosyncline changed throughout geological time. geological time. That means the nature and the pattern of geosynclines which change throughout the geological time, which is not constant. It changes and evolves. So this is what the third characteristic of geosyncline. And the fourth is it basically, or I can say it strongly, that it forms in a mobile zone of water. So it forms in mobile water zone. So as we can see here, this is the water. So this is the mobile water. Under this, geosynclines are formed. So this is the general characteristics about the geosyncline, that must contain a mobile water zone. So then the next characteristic is it is bordered by two rigid bodies. Two rigid bodies, or it also called as forelands. Actually, here we cannot see that. I will draw and I will explain for you. So actually, geosynclines will be like this. In next, in further, we can see what actually geosyncline is. So here, this is what subducted material, and these two limbs, or these two edges, are called forelands or two rigid bodies. This is what the rigid body means. And here water is present. This is what water. So mobile water. So this is what about a geosyncline and the characteristics of geosyncline. You can see at once. You can have a quick glance at it. So then next we will see evolution of concept. So first the concept was mm, first evolved, or I can say that the first the geosyncline theory was given by Dana and Hall. So what did they say? They first said that the geosynclines are marine origin. Marine means water origin. So they basically form in water or seas, or I can say water bodies, under the water bodies. So these are basically a marine origin. And the next what they said is there is a characteristics of subduction. Sorry, there is a characteristic of subsidence, not subduction. Subsidence and sedimentation. So this is what they said. It takes place regularly, and they have said that the geosyncline is what we have discussed earlier, narrow, and it is shallow, etc. It is narrow, shallow, etc. What we have discussed earlier. So this is what they said, and for this was actually said by Dana. And what Hall did was he brought some rightful evidences, right evidences to prove that their theory was correct. So we can observe here, this is the sea level. This is what the sea level. This is the water presence in the sea, or I can say the depression. So due to the erosion, there is a deposition of sedimentation. This is the sedimentation, that is layer by layer the sediment is deposited. So this is the subsidence of floor. The sediments got subsided in deep. So this is what we can see. This is the land surface area. This is the land surface area. This is what they have said. Then next came the concept of hug. Hug generally said that he also said he also agreed with Dana and Hall, but he himself produced a paleogeographical map, which we can see here. he produced the map, and in this map he gave the evidences of geosyncline and fold mountains. So first what he said was geosynclines are long and narrow and deep water bodies. Deep water bodies. He defined geosynclines as long, narrow, and deep water bodies. This is what Haag said, or Haag defined, and he demonstrated geosynclines by producing the evidence of paleogeographical map of the world. So this is what the paleogeographical map of the world we can see here. This is what the area where there is a fold mountains, or where the geosynclines are found. So this is what we can see. So actually the distribution of rigid masses and geosynclines. So these are the, if we consider these are the rigid masses, this is what the geosyncline is. So this is what he said. And next we'll see concept of Scatcherd. Scatcherd classified geosynclines into three categories. So the first category is the monogeosyncline. Monogeosyncline is nothing but the formation of mountain through the geosyncline takes place in single action. So it takes in single action. The formation of mountain basically takes place in a single phase. So that is known as monogeosyncline. The best example for monogeosyncline is the Appalachian Mountains. The Appalachian Mountain is the best example, which is formed by the single action or single phase. So this is what the monogeosyncline, and then we'll see the polygeosyncline. Polygeosyncline is a similar thing, but here the formation of mountain or mountain building took place by several phases or several actions. So mountain building took place by several phases, more than two phase is polygeosynclines. So this is what polygeosyncline is, and the best example suit for polygeosynclines is the Aravallis took 6 cycles to form. This is about polygeosynclines. And then next we'll see what is mesogeosyncline. Mesogeosyncline is nothing but it is the deepest and the largest. This is the narrow, deepest, and largest. So these are largest. Mesogeosynclines are deepest, narrow, and largest. Their floor can be oceanic floor. So basically the floor is oceanic floor, and this is what they said. And they have given example for geosynclines as, if you consider the earth in, I can say, carboniferous era, or precambrian period. So the earth, this is the earth, and this is the land masses. This is the land mass which is surrounded by Panthalassa, which is water body. Panthalassa is a water body. So this is the land mass. So this got breakdown, and one went upper side and one went towards, that means both the land masses moved apart, one to the northern pole and the other to the southern pole. So this is what happened. And in the following condition, there is a formation of continents which we are seeing today. So basically what we have to understand here is the present day Mediterranean Sea. So this is the geosyncline Mediterranean Sea. This is the Mediterranean Sea. So the present day Mediterranean Sea is also a mesogeosyncline and is a sediment of ancient Tethys Sea. This is the sediment of ancient Tethys Sea. Due to the breakage here, Tethys Sea is formed. So this is the remnant of ancient Tethys Sea. So this is what we have to understand from the mesogeosyncline. Then next we'll see what is the concept given by Mr. J.W. Evans. So let's see the concept of J.W. Evans. According to him, it is difficult to present what geosyncline is. So he said that um, the geosynclines varies in time, so it is difficult to present. So it is difficult to present its definite form and location. So what actually he said is, so geosynclines varies, that means they are not constant, so they varies. So it becomes difficult to present their definite form and location. So it is difficult for us to where geosynclines existed and where is their location, exact location. It is difficult for us to find because due to plate tectonics there is a movement in the surface of the earth. So plates are always moving, and if we consider billions of years, then we cannot say where it has present and where its location, exact location was. Then he said that the shape and form changes with changing environmental condition. So shape and form changes with changing environmental condition. So this is what he said. And uh, so there are various alternative situations of geosyncline. That is, we can say geosync. There are alternative situations also. So there are alternative situation for geosynclines. That means they can form in water body near. Actually, what initially what scientists told was that Dana and Hall told was it forms in a water body, and it forms in a water body, and it will be having two hard rocks, so, on both the sides. So these are four lands on both the sides. This is what they said, but actually what JW Evans is saying is there is a change will takes place alternate situation. During the alternate situation it can form between uh, land, and it can also form to the one side land and other side is the ocean. For example, the Tethys Sea between Tethys between Laurasia and Gondwana is one example, and the other is the mountain uh, in front of mountain. So we can also see in front of Himalayas there is a formation of geosynclines. In front of Himalayas there is formation of geosynclines. So these are the two best examples for the alternative situations of a geosyncline. Then let's say the concept of Arthur Holmes, what Arthur Holmes postulated or what he suggested for us to understand. So let's see the concept of Arthur Holmes. So he basically said the sedimentation leads to subsidence, which we have seen in the general characteristics. So he said sedimentation Sedimentation leads to subsidence. And he said that this entire process is not a sudden process, it takes time. It is not a sudden process. And he told that 1 foot of sedimentation, 1 foot of sedimentation takes around 7,500 years. So this is the long period. So this is what he said. And he also identified four major types of geosyncline. So what are they? We'll see four major types of geosyncline. So he identified four major types of geosyncline. Let's see the first one. The first one is the migration of lava. Due to lava migration, there is a formation of a geosyncline. And the next one is metamorphism. That is, a change in metamorphism is nothing but simply the change in rock property. Metamorphism, change in rock property. Rock changes its property. This is what metamorphism is. And the third thing is he said that formation of geosyncline due to compression of outer layer of crust. So compression of outer layer. So due to compression also the geosynclines forms. And the fourth one is thinning of cealic layer. So which we have seen in our earlier classes in earth crust, about the earth crust, earth interior. So we have seen that the chemical composition in earth crust, no sorry, in earth's interior. So thinning of CL layer, that is silicon and aluminum layer. So there is thinning means formation of larger layer. If you consider this is thin, this is what called thinning layer. So this is the thinning take place. Thin layer, so thinning of layer takes place. That means it is compressed from both the sides. And from this stage to it reaches to this stage. So this is what thinning is. So thinning of shale layer. And then next we'll see the concept of H stele. H stele is subdivided geosynclines into two categories. The first one was U geosyncline. U geosyncline is a simple term, but we have to understand here. That is, it is located in much larger area and deeper water. Larger area and deeper water, away from land. This is what he initially told. And the second thing he said about EU geosyncline is that these are there is a volcanic activity in this area. Volcanic activity in this geosyncline area. So this is what geosyncline is. And then he said that the geosyncline. What is geosyncline? Geosyncline is smaller. Here this is a larger area. Here we can see a smaller area compared to that smaller area. So smaller and relatively shallow. Here we can see deeper. Here quite opposite, shallow waters. And here far away. Here near to the continental margins. Here far away, here near to continental margins. So here we cannot find the volcanic activity, so it is free from volcanic activity. It is free from volcanic activity. This is what a geosyncline is simply. And if I can explain you with the help of diagram, so let's see. So I'll trying my level best for this. So this is the sedimentation and this is the sedimentation present here. So if you consider, this is the sea level, so this is having the greater depth, this is having the shallow depth, that is lower depth. So this is what geosyncline, which is having greater depth, and which is having a lower depth, that is geosyncline. This is the simply said, simply I explained with a simple diagram. So next we'll see the basic theory involved in geosyncline. So the first theory about a geosyncline was given by Mr. Kober. So Kober, he said that origin of mountains is on the basis of, he said, origin of mountain on basis of geosyncline theory. So this is what he initially said, and then according to him, there is a mobile zone of water which is present, which we can see from this above diagram. See, this is a mobile zone of water, and it is also having a sedimentation under it. So these are the cratons, or it also called as forelands, cratogens or forelands. So which helps in a kind of hard rock, which helps in as a support. Water will not overflow from the depression. So this is what we can get from this. And so this is what I have explained. These are surrounded by cratogens, and the force of, in the next figure we can see that the force acting, that the convergent force, which helps in converging the land mass. This is, if we consider this as a plate or the layer, oceanic layer, so which has a geosynclines or the sedimentation. So this sedimentation due to compression, there is a intense rise takes place. So in the next figure we can see this, due to the compression there is a rise took place, rise of mountain, and it formed as a fold mountain. So this happened due to continuous deposition. So there is a continuous deposition from these areas, that is cratogens or forelands. There is a continuous deposition and sediments, and there is a convergent forces which is acting on from both the sides. So there is a convergent force which is acting from both the sides. There is a possibility of a formation of fold mountains. This is what Kober explained, and he also said this entire process passes through three stages. So the entire process of mountains, which is passes through three stages. Basically it has three stages. So let's see the first stage. For first stage we have to observe the figure number 2. See, if we observe here, there is a landmass. Actually it is a landmass. Due to some kind of forces acting, or due to some kind of load, there is a depression took place, and the depression we can observe here. In the second figure we have to see this is the lithogenesis. So this entire process is known as lithogenesis. Here there is a deposition of sediments from the cratogens or forelands, and there is a mobile zone above the deposition. This is what the lithogenesis is. and actually here subsidence is taking place. So subsidence is taking place, and then we'll see what is orogenesis. Orogenesis, the second thing is that orogenesis, we have to see the figure number 3 and 4. So if we consider this both figures, we can say that here the due to the convergent forces and in the regular continuous deposition of sediments, there is a squeezing takes place, and due to the squeezing, and there is a fold kind of thing is formed, and thus we can see here there is a formation of fold mountain. So due to the squeezing and squashing, there is a fold mountain formed, due to the continuous deposition and sedimentation processes. Now let's see the what is glyptogenesis. Glyptogenesis is simple. It is a cycle process. Everything happens in a cycle process. First we have seen there is a flat land, then we have seen formation of depression, then we have seen formation of geosyncline, then we have seen formation of fold, and the in the further stage we have to see the erosion also takes place. So glyptogenesis mainly says about the erosion stage. So slowly the folded mountains start eroding. So this erosion also takes place. This erosion again deposits here and forms a kind of depression, and the process continues. This is a continuous cycle of process. So uh, this is what we have to learn from today's lecture. I hope that you got the basics of today's lecture, and I will attach a PDF handwritten notes of mine with this lecture in the description. So thanks for your time and thanks for your patience. Thank you.